Recording. All right, so I am Lindsay Helm. I am another trainer with Coach Training EDU. I am very grateful to be part of the organization. I love it. I started training originally with John back in 2011, 2012 as part of the Academic Life Coaching program. So one of the first groups to go through his ALC.
Hello?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Hello?
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 We can hear you. Let me send him a chat. All right. Yeah. Okay. And so, yeah, so doing all of that, I've also worked in, my background's actually in counseling. So I have my master's in counseling psychology, was working as a counselor with specializing in teens and young adults with mental health and addiction. And while I was doing that is when I discovered the ALC program. And as you might get to know from me, I tend to be more of a high energy.
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello?
Who is that?
I'm Lindsay. I'm filling in for Hannah. Are you with the wellness? Is he?
Hello?
Yes, he
okay.
is. He has some internet issues.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not certain he
Can you
knows how
hear
to
me?
get into the chat area.
Oh, okay. I don't know how to throw me a curveball, of course. All right. I can't even mute. That's what's weird. Okay, we'll keep going. So trying to make my long story very short, but dove into coaching. It's definitely more fitting for my personality. I love helping people figure out, oh, thanks, Mike, where they want to go and how to get there. I think my passion for coaching now, so I do more, I shifted from academic life coaching more into wellness with a focus on injury recovery. One, I have a very, athletic background. My husband and I, have always been engaged in, active in sports, but he had a tragic accident 3 years ago where he was paralyzed from the waist down, in a kayaking accident. And so we went through all the, insurance, everything, the medical recovery, but then we were left at home with nowhere else to go. And we found ourselves discovering this place in Michigan, which was a professional training, athletic training place for pro athletes, Olympic athletes, high school. But they also have this niche where they help people with neurological disorders and injuries recover beyond initial expectations. And so we spent the good portion of 2015, 2016 there. While I was there, I quit my job. I had done coaching part-time up until then, but I kind of dove in head first, wanted to go full-time. I took, the 2.0, the wellness, the sport, the business building class through EDU or Gina Halstead at the time. So anything I could do, I just dove head first in. And now we are working towards starting our own gym locally. So we're back home. I'm from outside Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Sorry, I think I forgot to mention that. But we just received funding for a gym and we're in the process of starting that. And so our big vision is to have a training facility where people with both able-bodied and people with disabilities can come and have access to building and, staying active, being athletic, no matter what their abilities are, also including the mental component. So while I was in Michigan, I was there with my son. He just turned 3 today. It's his birthday. So I was there and I was just like watching more just how much mindset plays into it. The people that were there who showed up, what type of person decided to just try to defy all the odds, and how much coaching helps with that has really been a key motivator for me and what I do. So I've been training with John now for a while. I do the ALC program, wellness. I'm teaching the sport right now as well. So I just want to throw it out there. Any questions you guys have in general, please, I'm here to help, be a resource at any point in time. So please don't hesitate to reach out. But yeah, so that's kind of a little bit of a random order of events, but my story and how I got to coaching. And then what I do now is I have my own company, Forward Effects Coaching, specializing with athletes, but still doing the academic component, definitely including that wellness piece. And then I also partner with a nonprofit to coach Navy SEALs transitioning from active duty to civilian life. So that's been really rewarding. I just started that back in March, and it's been really, I just love it. I really love it as a way to give back. So that's me. I would love to check in and just get like a brief, I know just for time's sake, who you are, what brought you to coaching, and what are you most excited about, or what's been your kind of most biggest aha moment so far in the past few weeks since you've started.
I'll start.
Yes, thanks. Is it JC?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, JC.
Sure. I live in Maine. I work for a university. I work in the School of Nursing. I'm not a nurse. No one wants me near anything medical. I do clinical placement, so I get to work with students and kind of help them reach their goals with their different placements. But in working with kind of college-age students, I am getting closer to 30, and I had a really awesome group of people in my early 20s that really helped me kind of get where I wanted to go. And so this is kind of my Miss Rumphius project, the children's book Miss Rumphius, about how she tries to make the world a better place.
Yes.
This is my Miss Rumphius project, and it's something I would like to start kind of part-time while I'm doing my job, because I really enjoy my job now. And I just think coaching is so much fun. I love what we've been doing. It's been great.
Excellent. Awesome, JC. Thank you. Maybe the sun's setting on the East Coast. Who's next? Don't be shy.
I can go. If you, oh wait, Kanika, were you going to go?
Go ahead.
Go Robin and
Okay.
Kanika.
Okay. I am a little older, and it was time for me to make a little bit of a change in my life. I am a personal trainer. I am a Group X instructor. I do those things already. I'm a health coach. So this, I was hoping this was going to just tie everything together for me, and it really has. So far, I've been very pleased. I do have a full-time job that I've been with for, 23, 24 years, not in a gym setting or anything. It's a professional setting. And I'm hoping that in the next few months, not to have that job anymore. So
Nice.
I'm hoping to move to more of what I would like to do.
Awesome, Robin. Great. Take the leap. I highly encourage it.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Kanika, how do you pronounce your name? Oh, wait, are you muted? Hold on. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I am based in Singapore. I'm a strategy consultant. And I'm in between jobs right now. I think what motivated me to start this was my passion for fitness. I have no healthcare background whatsoever, no health and wellness background whatsoever. So yeah, I want to see how this goes, and maybe a few years down the line, I can think about something.
Excellent. Thank you. Love hearing everybody's background. Who's next?
I'll go.
Yes, hey, Sarah.
Hey, yeah, I'm Sarah. I live in Austin, Texas, and I do recreation and aquatic therapy. It's community-based and mostly with people with autism. But I love my job, and I guess I love life coaching, because what I really love when I work is kind of finding people's happiness and what they love doing and figuring out what they like to do the most for fun. So I think it's really neat to sort of discover that in other people, and I'm just kind of here to grow that and see where I can take it.
Awesome. Love it. Thanks, Sarah. There's Mike and Kellen.
Go, Kellen.
Okay, so my name is Kellen. I live in North Carolina. I work from home. doing transcription. I have an 11-year-old daughter, and I am looking forward to having a similar schedule so that I can spend a lot of time with her. I really enjoyed some of these concepts that we've been learning about because it's just sort of how I've always naturally been with people. I've always been into really direct communication and inquiry and those kind of things. That's just how I am. So this just feels like it will be second nature to me. And I'm really into, nutrition and eating well and just exercising. And so I think it'll just come together well for me.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you.
Sure.
Mike, bring it home.
Okay, I'm Mike. I am 55, I think. I live in Colorado. I've spent my career as a consultant in marketing and market research, but I'm kind of moving toward a transition to a second career. And so a couple of years ago, I had open heart bypass surgery, and my plan is to open a practice where I am serving people who have experienced heart events to help them through a lot of the challenges that arise over the next 2 or 3 years after you go through an event like that. So
awesome, Mike. Yes.
Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. Yes. Speaking my language, that recovery piece. Love it. Well, thank you, everybody. It's always so fun for me to see where everybody's from and just like the diverse group and where coaching fits in so many different areas. So thank you for taking the time. Today, we're moving to client learning. So, right, you've been through the Learn, Be, Do model, being last week with Core Motivation, which I have to give my little plug. I mean, by now you know how awesome it is. I just think I've used that with a lot of people who have been exposed to so many different tests, and that comes out on top again and again as one of the most unique and applicable ones. So I love it. I think Core Motivation has been something I literally use every day, and I've typed everybody in my family and in-laws. So huge fan. Then learning, we're moving on to learning in the Wheel of Life, which is a standard life coaching tool. Very handy. I use it with all the academic clients, the wellness clients. You'll see the wheel come up again and again. There's different versions of it. It's my version of a freebie on my website. So again, just a very useful tool to have in your pocket as a coach. So before I kind of dive into the learning aspect, I want to just check in and see what questions you have about the material.
I have kind of a random general question, but when you're starting with a new client, would you do Wheel of Life first or Core Motivation first?
Ooh, that's a great question. I do both. No, that's a very great question. So as you do more and more clients, as you work with more introductory interviews, which I always recommend an introductory interview, by the way, to make sure it's a good fit. I do both. And for me, it depends on the feel in terms of what the client is seeking from counseling or coaching. Gosh, that's like a major slip. Coaching. I've been counseling in years. What they're seeking from coaching. So for example, if it's more of Core Motivation, I usually dive into if I feel like there is like a exceptional stuckness. One of my kind of plugs for my website is I love helping clients get unstuck. And so that's where I love to dive into that personality type, because it looks at your strengths and your shadow side and really can provide a different perspective in terms of how you might be getting in your own way based on your core motivation. So depending on what the client comes with, I may use that, or if I feel like they're kind of all over the place or they're really kind of stuck in one area even, then I also love the Wheel of Life, because that gives a really great perspective and bird's eye view on your whole life picture. So many times people look at that and they're like, huh. And there's really great aha moments that come from just seeing that simple wheel and the ratings from that. So I don't have like a formula, but I have used both, just depending on, my feel from the initial interview with the client. If you have time, you can throw in both, but normally it's one or the other.
Okay.
Does that help? I know it's like all over, but.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, I love random questions too. Bring them on.
Okay.
And JC, did you have a question? Okay, sorry. I thought you were jumping in. All right. Well, let me jump
Lindsay, did you say that you I'm sorry, real quick. Did you say that you took a class about business building as part of this program?
Yes. So after I had gone through the trainings, Gina Halstead, who actually recently retired, had run a business building class. Now, as part of EDU, we have the Build Your Life's Work program, and they've also they just finished up the first boot camp that we've done, where all of us trainers kind of hopped in and helped lead an intensive business building boot camp over the summer. And then I know that we have one planned for the fall. So if that's something, if there's like that additional support that you would like in terms of a group and accountability and trainers to come to with questions, that is something I would definitely keep my eye out for in the fall. But you can also tap into the Build Your Life's Work blueprint, basically the guide that's on the class page, which really walks you through. And that's the kind of the crux of the boot camp. We build on that along with accountability from the class and other insights from the trainers. But it's a really great guide to follow along as you're going through the training, if that's where you are. Yeah. The one thing I would probably say that is most helpful for me from business building is getting that vision for where you want to go with your business, what you want it to look like, and defining your target population, your target group, your niche, because that is going to help you so much in terms of determining how you communicate, how you talk about coaching, and just because you have a target group, if somebody who doesn't fit that target, if they come in, that doesn't mean you can't coach them, but it just means that as you're marketing, you have a much more direct, honed message if you know who your audience is. That's just kind of one of my favorite tips to throw out.
Ed is back and he is in his car.
Oh, hi, Ed.
Great.
Hey, hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Survive.
Survived.
I have a headache with my internet.
Oh, no. So I heard there's some internet issues. Do you mind? So I'm Lindsay. I'm the trainer. We're diving in today. I would love to just get a real quick idea of who you are and maybe your favorite moment from the coaching so far or what brings you to coaching.
Okay, my name is Eddie. I'm the guy I have a problem in the internet.
You're that guy.
Yeah, unbelievable. I'm inside my truck because where I am right now, I could not get internet. Yeah, I'm working in Pennsylvania, and the place that I work over here, the internet is so poor,
Did you say Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I'm in Pennsylvania right now.
Me too.
Where?
I'm East Coast, about an hour from Philadelphia. How about you?
Williamsport.
Yeah. I know Williamsport. Nice.
Yeah. For me, this is a jungle.
Yeah. So what brought you to coaching?
I'm sorry?
What brings you to coaching?
I love help people, support people, and empower people, I love how can I say? I love be contribution for the world. I love that. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome, Eddie. Well, very nice to meet you. Just diving into learning in the wheel of life is where we are. So glad you made it.
Okay.
So yes, think about learning. Let me just kind of step back for a moment. The question, so what are you learning about yourself, has become one of my favorite go-to coaching questions. Especially if you feel like, I'm sure you've talked about that, coaching the client, not the problem, kind of avoiding our universal fix-it reflex. We're so used to kind of wanting to like jump in level one and fix the problem for people, but coaching is all about not that. So if you find yourself getting in the weeds or getting stuck in that fix-it mode, a learning question is a really great opportunity to pull yourself out of it and step away from the problem. It really helps you turn it back more on the client. What are they learning about themselves? What is the situation trying to teach them? If they're successful in following through on their action step, what do they hope to learn about themselves? So it can be a really powerful tool. And I will say, sometimes it throws clients for a loop a little bit. They're like, wait, what? They might give you that look, but as the coach, that's where it's really important to hold the space and give them that space to really think about it. And I can't tell you how many times it is so amazing what comes up by asking that question and giving the client that space to think about it. So yeah, and it can be as simple as, what are you learning about yourself right now?
Did you talk direct to me?
No, just in general.
Oh, okay.
Unless you would like to share.
I was hooked up by cell phone in the car, and I'm a little bit lost here. I can answer your question, but I can answer your question if you do again, because I was out for a little bit.
Sure. So Ed, what are you learning about yourself right now, navigating your internet troubles?
What I learned about myself, I learned be prepared before I start the class. I learned that my internet doesn't work where I am, and I need to move to another place.
So who do you need to be prepared?
I need to be prepared in a lot of things, you know. I knew I have a problem with the internet, and I learned if I am more, how can I say, how can I get the right words? If I am more commitment with myself, you know, this cannot happen.
Yeah. Thank you for that freestyle. I actually would love to even keep going, but we'll pause for a moment, because then I'm curious about commitment, right? If he is more committed,
Yeah.
who does a more committed Ed look like? So that's where you can play with that. Thanks, Ed. That was a fun, spontaneous demo. Structured improv, right? All right. So trying to think of one example that I love to also use with learning, and which also helps kind of getting away from that problem, is if, a common example that might come up is if you have a client who has trouble setting an agenda, right? We're working on mastering the setting agenda part of it as well. And let's say you have a client where every time you say, well, what would you like to focus on? And they just, I don't know, everythly's fine, nothing. So that's where you can also take a step back and you can get curious about that. And you can say, instead of saying, well, why not? Right? It's more valuable to spend your time looking at what is your client learning, or what might they need to learn about themselves in order to set an agenda. So you could ask a learning question like, what's the challenge to establishing an agenda for our call? And then follow up with, what are you learning about yourself? So it's a really good way to add dimension to the types of questions you ask. And creating learning is really what we're after, both in the call and in between the sessions. So setting up action steps that they can really learn more about themselves through accomplishing. And then checking in with that on accountability. And again, another great way to check in about accountability is, wow, what did you learn about yourself, and following through on that? Or what got in your way in being successful this week? And what do you need to learn about yourself? Or what would you want to learn about yourself? Any questions or thoughts on that?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So I have seen a couple of times in the material this question, what kind of person do you want to be or need to be? And I was wondering if you could speak to that, and what is like a typical response that you might hear, and what are you really trying to get at when you ask that question?
Yeah, so what kind of person do you want to be or need to be? Yeah, so that would be the being side of the learn, be, do model. And that's also questions that often throw clients for a loop at the beginning, because they're not used to thinking about who they need to be. So for example, if I feel like I just had one today. Yes, it was somebody who was talking about wanting to bring more fun into their life. And so an example could be, who do you need to be to bring more fun into your life? And then they might talk about, well, I don't know, maybe I need to be less focused on being perfect. And so so what does that look like? And that could be maybe just more spontaneous, less attached to the outcome and more focused on the process. So it can talk in that way, so they might respond in that way. A lot of times I'll hear more organized, right? So who do you need to be to follow through? Well, I need to be more organized. I need to be more prepared. And then you can coach around that. So what does more prepared look like? What gets in the way of being more prepared? What's the challenge of being more prepared? So that's typically the way that question flows. Who do you need to be, or who do you want to be? And I like the want to be too. And also, I'm not sure if you've gotten to metaphor yet. I forget where the metaphor comes in. Metaphor is also a phenomenal coaching tool, and that can help point to being in a little bit of a different way. So I won't jump the gun on that. But like if you, like, who do you really admire? And let's say they admire somebody who's really strong and courageous. And then it's like, okay, well, who do you, like, how do you want to exemplify strength and courage in tackling using your planner this week, right? So it can be, it doesn't have to be like this big thing. It can be, how can you bring that characteristic into your small action step or your experiment for your homework for the week? And so that's where the being can really start to flow and open up other avenues of learning, actually.
That sounds good.
All right, thanks, yeah. Other questions? And you know I'm going to throw that in the demo, right? Yes.
Lindsay, this is Mike. I've noticed that with you and with Hannah and with John, that these example questions just flow really naturally, like there's a bank that you carry around in your head. Is that something that is developed over time, or when you're coaching, do you like to have some paper in front of you with some example directions to go into?
Yes. So that is a great question that I get quite often. And my best advice is it comes with practice. I too used to be in the seat of, what do you mean? What's a being question? What's a learning question? How does John do that? And so I would personally, my strategy for that was writing out lists, just really getting familiar with how they sound and what they look like. I think I have one close by. Yes, I used to keep them here. I think I was like too scared to get rid of them in case, oh wait, no, that's something else. Just in case, I don't know, like I had a blank or something. But it comes with confidence. Yes, here's a list of my being questions that I wrote down. But it's also the way I learn too, right? I'm a very visual learner. So being able to write them down was what helped them kind of get them into my mind. And then also doing the overviews, practicing, stumbling through them, getting uncomfortable, taking that awkward pause, which you learn to love as a coach, and just really sitting with it and trying your best to stay away from the do you questions or is there questions, and really the what, why, how, learn, be, do. So it comes with practice. It really does. One resource I've been sharing with coaches that I haven't read it entirely, but I found it a useful reference when I first started. And it's just a book called Coaching Questions. And it's a coach's guide to powerful asking skills. Tony Stoltzfus. You don't have to buy it, but if anybody is looking for other resources, I also have a list I can email out today of like 107 powerful questions, if anybody has seen that. Okay, I'll send that along. So because that was, asking the questions was the hardest part for me of coaching. And so that's what I think, just the more I see like option questions, this question is literally, what other options can you think of? And then you start to realize like they don't have to be like exceptionally profound. Sometimes often the simplest questions are the most powerful. And another strategy I tell newer coaches is really just using your level 2, thinking about what word jumps out at you that the client says and forming a question around that. It can be a really great way to take kind of the formula of, this is my list of questions that I know I can draw on. This is what I'm hearing with my curiosity, and forming them together into a powerful question that can also demonstrate active listening. I hope that helps. Practice. You'll get there.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. How about we jump into a demo then with the wheel? What do you guys think? Are there any other questions about learning? All right. Let's rock the wheel. So I think one thing we can do, oh wait, I'm sorry. I'm going to touch on inquiry quickly because I want you to try to come up with an inquiry as well in your breakout sessions today. Inquiry is a really helpful tool I often use, especially if I'm up against a time block, like the session's ending. I'm like, oh my gosh, we only have a few minutes left. We haven't come up with action steps. What's an inquiry that you would like to walk away with today that you can consider between now and the next session? One of my favorite ones I recently had with one of my adult clients was they just weren't taking action, and they were talking a lot about, they called themselves like an excuse generator, an excuse maker. These were words that the client used about themselves. And so we talked about an inquiry, and I think I first threw out, so maybe, as you're going through the week, when you find yourself stopping or diverting yourself, what about considering the question, am I making an excuse, or what excuse am I making? And then the client tweaked it. So which part of the power of coaching is handing it over to the client and letting them make it their own, which can be really helpful in inquiry and important in inquiry. And the client instead made it, is the excuse I'm making valid? And I thought that was really cool to even just think about, like, whether or not it's even a real excuse. Like, and then we got to the next session, like, what does valid mean? When do you know you're making a valid excuse? And so that's where inquiry can be really powerful and helpful to generate learning in between sessions. So questions on inquiry. It's really just a question to leave them with to consider. All right. So let's see. Who would like to be the demo client for today? Let me queue up the rooms. Do we have a group of 3? No takers? All right, I will go to the randomizer, the almighty randomizer. Let's see. I'm trying to think. All right, so JC, you're first.
Okay.
If you're open to it. Have you been a demo client already?
Yeah, I don't mind doing it, but if somebody else wants to jump in, I feel like I'm hogging the demos.
Okay, then let's see.
I don't mind, but
yes, but I love to get everybody out of their comfort zone if they haven't yet. So let's see. Mike, you're next. Have you been one? You have been? Then I have Sarah.
I have. Also happy to do it, but I have, yeah.
Okay, Sarah, have you done it?
Okay, fine. I haven't done it. I confess. Yes! It's me. I have not done it.
Go, Robin.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Robin. So real quick, so today you have the option of looking at 2 wheels. There's the general wheel of life, which is generally my starter, but then there's also the wheel for stress management. And the concepts are the same, so I'll leave it up to you, what you guys want to do in your breakouts on your own. And then, but yeah, so the concept, the structure, the format is the same. Now, with the wheel, it does lend itself to action very easily, but we are still at this point in the training course avoiding that want to fix reflex. So our goal for today is to really kind of avoid any action questions as much as possible and stick to learning and being, to try to draw out as much learning as possible from the wheel before moving to the action. Okay? So you'll see. So sometimes it might feel a little awkward. That's okay. At this point in the course, I always tell everybody to embrace the awkward, be uncomfortable, and then just see, because that's going to help grow you as a coach. All right. So that's a couple of my disclaimers. All right, Robin, you ready to do this?
Okay, sure. Yeah.
All right. Now, do you have a piece of paper, and does everybody have a piece of paper with them? We are all going to create a wheel, and I think for time's sake too, you guys can create the wheel along with Robin and I.
Okay.
So Robin, first, how are you? How are you doing so far this class?
I'm good.
Yeah?
Real good. How are you?
Good. I'm all right. Thank you.
I was focusing on drawing straight lines. I'm sorry.
Mine are always a little messed up. So let's pretend if we had 30 minutes, what would you like to focus on for our coaching session?
Not something that's on the wheel of life. Just what can we focus on during the coaching session?
Yeah, I'm just really curious. Is there anything top of mind outside of the wheel?
Top of mind. Yeah, no. You strike me. I don't know. I got nothing.
Okay. All right. Let's maybe, and sometimes I ask coaches to be like good clients. So if there's anything around balance in your life, is there an area where you might want to create more balance?
I need to make a little bit more commitment to my business and to the fitness end of things, the personal training, the cycle classes and things like that. I need to maybe move them a little bit more front of page.
Okay.
I found this week the classes I had Monday and Tuesday were just like a repeat, and I'm like, how long have I been repeating these? So yeah.
So what about that surprised you? You've been repeating classes.
Because everybody, well, I think I'm the only one that notices. I don't think the actual participants notice so much. They just notice how much they're sweating or not sweating, or how much they're doing or not doing. So I don't think they notice. I notice. Maybe I'm getting bored with them.
So what about?
There we go.
Well, I'm curious, like the boredom, right? Like what?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's important to you about variety or not being bored?
I think once I start getting bored teaching a class, I don't put as much into it as I would. Like in a cycle class, I just don't put as much verbal into it. I don't put as much encouragement into it and things like that. So I have noticed that, I need to make some time during the week and redo these classes and add a little bit more oomph to it.
Nice. And so if we were successful today in our call, what would you want to walk away with?
I would probably want to walk away with the knowledge that I have definitely put this a little further ahead on my list of things to do this week.
Okay. So
maybe actually get it on the calendar or something like that, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like carving out time to devote to your fitness classes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. And I'm super curious, if we're successful in carving out that time, what bigger impact would that have on your life?
Oh, it would probably make me feel better about the classes that I teach. It would just take that stress off me.
Okay. So thinking about finding time and balancing, I have this really helpful tool, actually. You would be open to it. The Wheel of Life. What do you think?
Wow. Okay. We should give that a try.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So the wheel, as you guys all know, has 8 wedges, right? And so what I'll ask you to do, Robin, if you have your wheel, so you draw the circle, you draw it with 4 lines, and then you have it labeled. Do you already have it labeled?
No, I do not.
Okay. So the general labels that we can use are growth, career, money, family. Oh wait, is this the one with 10? Oh, this is the one with 10. Sorry, y'all.
But it could be 8, right?
It can be 8.
I mean, it could be 8. Let me step out of the role that I was
No,
playing.
It totally can.
And jump into the other role. It can be 8.
It can be 8.
And it can be anything that the client wants to. Okay.
Yeah, so this will be a great. So what 8 would you choose? If you have the list in front of you, or I can walk you through my typical go-to 8.
Go ahead. What are your typical go-to 8? What are yours? Here we go.
So we have growth, career. We'll do family, friends, fun. And we do money, finances was the one. Health. And I'm like totally blanking on the other one.
Relationship?
Oh, relationship. Yeah.
Space actually is the one I usually use. Space.
Living space?
Like living space.
Okay.
Yeah, but we could add relationships if you would like. But we have friends, right?
Yeah, we do.
Friends could be relationships.
Okay, space. Okay.
All right, so now take a moment and go through each wedge in each area and rate each one on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of how satisfied you are right now with each area. So not how satisfied you were or how satisfied you want to be, how satisfied you are right in this current moment. With 1 being not even remotely satisfied and 10 being pretty awesome, very satisfied.
Okay.
All right. And now I'm going to share my screen to show you guys a picture of just a visual. Like I said, I'm a visual learner. So for each wedge and each number that you rated, go through each one and draw a line basically parallel to the circumference of the circle. So if you are a 7, it would be around here. A 4 is lower, just so that you can start to get a visual for each one.
Oh.
Right? It's obviously the half circle.
Now for family, I sort of split it up between my daughters and my significant other, my boyfriend. So
Perfect. Absolutely.
Okay.
That's perfect.
Okay.
All right. You all set with it?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Robin. So looking at your wheel, what jumps out at you?
What would jump out at me would be fun. I only rated a 7 on fun because we've had a lot going on. We haven't been able to go out and do as much as we were hoping this summer. So fun is the 7, but we do try to have fun wherever we go. But still, and then I rated family, my daughters, as a 6. I did rate it as a 6. They're grown, and I haven't quite figured out how to keep up with them yet. So and yet give them enough space to be on their own. So
what's the ideal balance you would like to strike between keeping up with them but letting them go out on their own?
I would like to, chat with them every week. Maybe have dinner with them every week. That might be a little too much to ask of them. So I'm kind of letting them make that decision, and it's not working out in my favor right now. So they've got a lot going on. They're in their 20s. I mean, come on.
What are you learning about yourself as a mom in looking at that balance?
Oh, well, I've thought about it a lot. I need to, maybe I need to let them know what I want, what my expectation is, and maybe somewhere along the line there's a balance.
Mm-hmm.
Just pick up the phone. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't consider texting a conversation. I'm sorry. So.
Yeah. So what do you feel like you still need to learn as you tackle that about yourself? What do you need to learn about yourself moving forward?
That I don't know, maybe I need to be a little bit more confident in their decisions and in their, maybe.
What's the hesitation there?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. maybe I shouldn't leave it all up to them. I'm sorry, what?
What's that,
Can I
Kelly?
ask a question?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay, cool. So if the coach, you as the coach were being asked that, like what would you be getting at? Like what do you think she could, potentially learn about herself when she's just sort of struggling with family members that are being too elusive? Because that's really kind of tricky to learn something about yourself when it's just other people not really participating like you would want them to.
Well, so that's the magic of it, right? As a coach, I don't have to know. I don't have to have any idea on I have zero expectation on what she might say. And that's where,
I was asking, like, how would you answer that?
How would I?
If someone asked you that, yeah.
Okay. Well, do you mind if we stick with the demo and then we'll come back to that?
Oh, sure.
Because I think it also depends situationally, right? Like yeah. So how about we table that, but I'll come back to it.
Sure.
All right. So yes. And remind me, and we'll have you coach me, and then I think that'll be fun. All right. Okay. So Robin, what else jumps out at you looking at your wheel?
Looking at my wheel. I have given a much higher score to growth, and I put this class toward growth. I put doing my business is I view that as growth. If we can make up our own definitions, which I think everybody will. I gave my growth and my potential there a higher rating than my current job. It doesn't really stick out, but it kind of reaffirmed my what I thought.
So what have you learned about yourself knowing, like reaffirming that in yourself?
Or that I'm probably on the right track. I definitely am.
And what's it like to say that with such confidence?
I think the realization, it's great. The realization hit me Monday when I actually met with my first practice client, and it went much better than I thought it was going to go. And it was like a real session with someone, and we got some good dialogue out of it, or good. So I just felt really good about it at that point. So.
Yeah. What characteristics did you came out the strongest in that moment when you felt that in the session?
Just the belief in myself, just that, knowing I could do it. So.
Yeah. I'm super curious. What is your vision for your business?
That is going to be one of the things that I'm going to work on for the next week, I think, for myself. Really defining it, putting words around it, putting a vision around it, so that I can get started on the other aspects of it. The Facebook page, the LinkedIn, the different things like that.
And then you mentioned earlier in the call that you don't want to be like it's you're the one who notices that you're the same classes, that they're kind of boring to you. So what is the opposite of boring within your classes in terms of who you want to be as an instructor?
Oh, a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more setting the mood, setting the tone, there's a lot to be said for the right instructor in different classes. That's what makes the class good or not. So.
And what drives you to make classes good?
Oh, just knowing that knowing that people get out of it what they want. that everybody comes to a class for a purpose, and everybody gets what they needed out of it.
Mm.
Some people just need, you know, to be in a group setting, to be with other people. They don't move around as much as others. Some people need the challenge. I mean, when you're looking at a class of, 15 people, you've got to try to focus in on everybody and what they need and what they're hoping to get out of the class. And you can tell what certain people want out of it.
Mm-hmm. What purpose do you bring to class for yourself?
For myself, I just enjoy helping them and watching them watch themselves grow physically or from a fitness standpoint.
What connection does your fun wedge have to your growth and business wedge?
Ooh. It probably has a lot to do with it. Yeah. It probably has a great deal to do with it. And see how she pauses and waits for me to say something, okay? She just waits. And so you just keep talking because you want to fill that. You do.
Yeah.
No, it does have a lot to do with it. And no, I haven't been happy in my full-time job for probably over a year with some changes that were made and that are going to continue to be made. So I'm looking forward, hopefully, to getting this thing launched.
Okay. And so, Robin, for time's sake, we'll jump to it. If you had to pick one wedge and move that wedge up just one notch, what wedge would you pick? What wedge would you choose?
I think I would probably move the growth wedge up a little bit because that would include the fun wedge. And it's something that I can work on without somebody else's participation. That doesn't mean I'm not going to call my daughters on Friday and just chat with them. I've given them all week, but, so I'll call them on Friday. But, yeah, I think the growth wedge is the wedge that I can focus on. That's going to bring up other aspects of my life.
Beautiful. So what number is that at currently?
The growth wedge is currently at a 7.
Okay.
But I need to put a little bit more framework around the vision part of the business. So I think I would feel better and it would move up a little bit if I could put a little bit more vision around that.
Excellent. If you're successful in putting a vision around that, what would that raise your 7 to?
I would raise it to an 8 because I still have a lot of work to do. It would only raise it 1 point.
Hey, so what's that action step to get clear on your vision in the next week?
That is my action step.
What's that look like?
What does that look like? That just to write down my niche audience, to write down things. What my plan is for it. And I think that would get the ball rolling.
Excellent. So when would you do that?
I'll do it this weekend.
Okay. And so how does that impact the agenda we originally set in terms of carving out time to work on your fitness classes?
Ooh. Yeah, that doesn't do anything.
Or what's an action step you could make towards carving out time based on everything we've talked about with your wheel?
Yeah, I'll just have to put something on the calendar before next Tuesday, before the next class. I need to feel better about it. So I do need to knock that out. And it won't take long once I get started.
I'm really curious, how might your vision impact you, the carving out time to focus on your fitness classes?
Well, actually, I'm going to a fitness convention this weekend in DC. So I'm really hoping to get some new ideas while I'm there. So I'm up there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So probably Sunday afternoon, I can work on when I get back, working out just a couple things on the classes, get some new ideas.
Okay.
So.
All right, cool. Well, thanks, Robin. We'll pause there.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Yes. Coaches, questions? Kellen, I haven't forgotten about you. Thank you, Robin.
Okay.
Questions, thoughts, insights?
I've got one, but I'll let Kellen, did you want to follow up on what you were asking earlier?
Yeah, sure. So I asked that question because I am reluctant to ask questions that I think I would have difficulty answering. Mm-hmm. And so she had been asked, what was she asked? She was asked what she was learning about herself because her children were sort of, doing their own thing. Mm-hmm. And so I just felt like that's a tough question to answer, and was wondering, what your take on that was.
Yeah, and so that's where, so you were asking if I was in her shoes, how would I answer?
Or like, what kind of answer as a coach are you expecting? Like, how could a person answer that?
Yeah, no, and I really appreciate that, that like concern of like, of not like, I don't know if I could answer that. How can I ask it? Which I think will come with practice and kind of throwing those questions out there and not being afraid for the question to fall flat. Because sometimes it might, and that's okay. But what I would just genuinely be curious of what that might open up for her and looking at, and I think my motivation for asking it too is helping make that shift away from what she can't control in terms of her daughters, but what she can control in terms of who she is or wants to be in that relationship. So that's, I think, where the learning question comes from. And that also speaks to, we do a powerful relationships exercise later in the program, which looks at like owning your actions, looking at your actions and assumptions in relationships and what's in your control and not. So I think that's where I was just curious, and just obviously with the theme of learning for today too, throwing that in there. But yeah, and I think that'd be, when there's a question where you're not sure about, like, I think that's a really cool way to think about it, is how would you answer that first, and just see what might come up and sit with it for a minute to see what your imagination might tap into.
What was that again? You just said there's material later on. What material were you talking about?
It's a later training session where we look at powerful relationships.
Okay. Yeah. That's a good answer. Thank you.
Yes. Thanks. So Mike and then Ed. Let's go, Mike.
Okay, thanks. Toward the end there, Lindsay, you asked her about the relationship between fun and career. I think those were the two that you chose.
And the growth, yeah.
How they were linked.
Yeah.
Fun and growth. Okay. I was just wondering how you decided to pick those two. Was it something about the score she applied, or just something that came to you?
Just the first thing she talked about and what jumped out at her was the fun wedge. And then we had just spent a lot of time in that growth wedge. So then I was like, then I just got curious about what connection might exist, because she had mentioned it earlier. Yeah. And as a coach, you could even say, what's the connection between family and growth? Like, that's where the wheel lends itself to a lot of just curiosity.
Right.
And just looking at what connections do you see that you might not have realized, or what connections jump out to you. But for me specifically, it was because she had brought up fun earlier, and then we were just talking about growth.
Okay. And then the other one, maybe something to think about moving on. But when I look at this wheel, I think it's great because I think it's relatively easy and quick to fill out. There's a lot of good insight that emerges pretty quickly for the coach and for the client. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but what I don't see there is something that kind of adds up to a total that says, leads to, what's your total evaluation of your joy, or your feeling wholeness, or the extent to which your soul is fulfilled, and do you ever try to ask them which of these things not only are they most satisfied with, but are most important in terms of contributing to this overall sense of well-being? Because it might be something they're not real satisfied with, but it's also not all that important,
Exactly. Some people want to have a wheel that has very uniform borders. Other people are completely happy having a very bumpy wheel where the wedges are disproportionate or, like 8s and 2s, and they're okay with that. And so how I use it in coaching is to just look at like what jumps out at them, what makes an impact. And through that process, you get a sense of whether or not they're okay with that, or they're very, you'll see it's fun to see what comes up with how forthcoming they are with like, well, I mean, like my living space is kind of a mess, but I'm okay with that. And so just through the coaching process, it tends to come up. And so I don't personally ask about wholeness in general, but I think that's absolutely something you could be curious about in terms of even like coaching to flourish or your general well-being. You could say like, looking at this wheel, what are you noticing about how you feel on the whole? Or yeah.
Well, like you said, it probably comes out, the importance factor probably comes out through the course of the discussion. So
yeah, it tends to lend itself very well to that.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah. Ed, your question.
Okay, as a coach, what do? We ask questions to understand who are they and where they want to go. Okay, but when you finish asking question, how you wrap this? How you understand? They understand who are they, where they want to go. What is the finish? The section
for because this tool or for coaching in general?
For coaching in general, for coaching in general. I have my section with you. Let me see, 25 minutes, half hour. Okay, and you keep asking questions for understand who I am and where I want to go, and I keep answers for you. But how you wrap that? How you finish and move for the next step?
So that's where, in terms of for finishing up and wrapping up for the next step, you can simply ask at the end, that's where you come up with the action steps and design accountability. Okay. And so you say, based on everything we've talked about, what action step would you like to take this week? Okay. So it's up to the client to come up with their actions. Like, you partner with them as a coach, but ultimately, if you can trust the process and trust the exploration, it's amazing how naturally the action flows from it. So, I mean, like even with Robin, like I didn't have to say anything about the vision or steps or anything. I just said, what would you like to do? And she had a beautiful action step ready to roll from what we talked about and what she's already been thinking.
Okay, I get that, but let me create something. If the people is lost, if the person is lost, they don't know where they go. They don't know about I don't know about me. I don't know about myself well, and I don't know where I go.
Okay.
What's the question?
So they don't know what they want.
Yeah.
So that's
how can I move this?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's where as a coach, I have that. So by the time they come to coaching, right? So they're coming to coaching for a reason, some reason. Maybe they're stuck and they have no idea why. I have the introductory interview where I get to know them and I do the deal. And then I also, as a coach, I have them like, what would, if we work together and we're successful in this coaching process, what would that look like? What would you want to walk away with? Like, I actually have a new client questionnaire that I have them fill out just to help us have some sort of measurability for what they're hoping to come away with. So usually there's something to give you a clue. So yeah, I don't know. Am I
okay,
what you're asking?
No, it's clear.
Okay.
But this is the beginning of the process.
Yeah.
Okay. In the beginning, we have the interview and the person set up the goals.
Yes.
Okay. But in some point, the person can start to be lost.
So they start to get, so I mean, hopefully in coaching, the more you coach, the clearer they get. But if like, let's say there's a session and they're just like stuck and they have no idea.
Exactly.
So from the, I honestly, to be totally honest, I haven't had that happen where they're just like, I have no clue. Because then the worst case scenario, which is still a really great thing, is designing some sort of experiment. So let's say they're trying to figure out where they want to go in life in a career change. then you can design some sort of experiment in terms of investigating what lights them up. What are they passionate about? Like there's usually something you can come up with to at least get them thinking about it. And that's also where inquiry can come in too. So if they have no idea what action to take, then you can talk about what question would you like to consider to learn more about yourself between now and next time. So that's where you can maybe bring that in.
Okay, and how you measure up? How you measure up? And for example, they start with you, and let me see about relationship, and he's in level 5, and how he's measured up himself.
So if like they rate the wedge as a 5?
Exactly. Yeah. I'm level 5 in relationship, but then I ask him what he needs to do to move 1 point.
Yeah.
Okay. And how is the question? Can I ask him?
So you say, if you want to focus on relationships, what action step could you take this week to move from a 5 to a 6?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where, you turn it over to them. And then there's also the idea, if somebody's super stuck, you can also come up, you have a brainstorming session in coaching, which is also a tool we teach, where you can throw out ideas as a coach, completely unattached to the, not judging whatever idea comes up. And that can often help get that creativity flowing where you come up with something. So yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Ed. Anything else? Because I want you guys to get some practice with this.
I have one more question that's sort of along these lines.
Yes.
In your personal coaching practice, when you're with clients, do you offer any commentary at all after they answer a question? Because it really gets this feel, it feels to me like you're just going through a questionnaire and it's just back to back to back questions, and you never stop and talk about it or, offer up anything. So how do you do that in your practice?
Yeah, me personally, and I always say to my coaches in class, like, who I am teaching is who I am coaching. Like, I'm pretty much myself. But I am also mindful. It's definitely the majority of what I use in a session is questions. But I might say, like, that's really interesting. I saw your energy kick up there. What was that? What just occurred to you? What just went through your mind? In terms of commentary, I don't offer much commentary in terms of maybe like interpretation. I might reflect and make, be like, wow, I'm noticing this pattern. What are you noticing? So that's where I might take it. But in general, it's not too much of a commentary because I feel like, and I actually thinking about feedback John gave me very early on, where I would actually paraphrase a lot, which I think I got from counseling training. But the paraphrasing and the reflecting back very often can put you as a coach suddenly in that expert role. And it can really interrupt the flow of the coaching session, because instead of continuing on with, instead of asking a powerful question, right, where they can continue their train of thought or think about it in a different way, they have to stop, think about what I said, judge whether or not what I said was actually accurate. If it wasn't accurate, then they feel like they have to explain themselves again to me. So you can see where it starts to get a little bit, the flow just kind of tanks. So in terms of commentary, I don't offer a ton. I've had some coaches do it more than others in terms of reflecting and active listening. But I feel like my balance is definitely more still heavy on the questions, but also kind of building that relationship and rapport through just kind of my own style and being myself. John, I think, is amazing at just doing question after question after question. Like seeing him coach, I've just been like, how does he do that without any like give and take? But I think that's also like his style, and he's obviously trained and coached for a long time. So that's kind of my take on it, and just my point of view.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, ready to practice. Wheel of Life. We will go for, let's see, 30. And I think, have you guys done a group of 3 at all? Or maybe I'll hop in then. Okay, for time's sake, I'll hop into a group. So we have all groups of 2. So let's go for 30 minutes. We'll do 15 minutes apiece, starting with the wheel. setting an agenda if you want to practice with that, starting with the wheel. We won't do the mini breakouts. But just really today's focus is looking at the wheel, getting curious about the process, maybe even saying like, what did you learn, and filling out the wheel, throwing in a learning question. But just continuing with the learning and being, and avoiding action as much as you can until maybe the last 5 minutes, and then seeing what action step comes up from that time spent exploring. Good? All right, so I will bring you back at about 42 after the hour, and then we'll have time to debrief. All right.